God, please allow me to open my heart so that others may open theirs. I don't know that I know any other way than this concept of loving out loud. And I think we all just kind of saw that in action right there when you're capable of holding space for a human to stand up in their own love and confidence without any shame or fear and embody that love that we all are. Last time I was here with all of you was the day I left for Maui for my deployment as the spiritual care supervisor for the Red Cross. That feels like lifetimes ago. And it was only, like a couple of weeks? And we had that big blue supermoon afterwards, and I came back a different person. Like, I could never have imagined the way that experience would change me. And I feel like someone who's pretty grounded in my emotional and mental and spiritual practices. And it impacted me in a way that I can't put into words. So I can only imagine how it's impacting those who don't have those practices in place. And it just was this eye-opening experience that everyone wants to ask me about. I didn't leave my house for about a week following. I wish I could have actually stayed a little longer, but mentally and emotionally, it's beyond comprehension. Everybody keeps asking me, is it as bad as the media is showing it? No, it's actually worse. Like, that's the reality. It's actually worse than everyone's seeing. I was not prepared for the amount of generational trauma it would trigger within myself, having access to blockaded areas and being on Front Street, seeing the destruction and the burn. That smell is something that I don't know will ever leave me. And it changed my life completely. I came back on the full moon and emailed the board of my congregation and said, I'm taking a sabbatical for a year. I gotta go back to being of service. This is where I'm called. This is what I'm meant to be doing. Talking to people, hearing their stories, holding space. Love. Love is this crazy vibration, energy source, whatever it is you want to call it, that we can't put into words. And I've been relying heavily since going to Maui on Rabbi Kushner's Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And he talks a lot about how we want to think God is this all-powerful deity making good things and bad things happen. When in reality, God isn't what makes things happen. God is the loving source energy that is there unconditionally for you to turn to when bad things happen. When we can't comprehend why things happen the way they do. I went to Maui, decided to take a sabbatical, hosted our statewide vigil for Maui last weekend at Lilo Kalani Gardens. I know some of you were there. Thank you for coming. It was broadcast across all the public access television. My friend Ashley called me on Monday and was like, we need an interfaith ceremony. Can you do this? I got all of our faith leaders together, and we had a service put together in 48 hours that was timed to the minute for the production crews. I got to tell you, I'm good at getting stuff done. I was pretty proud of how that came together. My friend from Lahaina flew over for it, was able to share. I have my friend who's now a refugee from Lahaina sleeping on my couch for weeks. And then 2 days ago, my cat passed away. So life has just been one thing after the other. And it's really made me reflect on love. I read a book to Sapphira called The Invisible String. And it talks about this invisible thread that is love that connects us even when we're not apart. And how even when I get mad at her, when she takes cookies without asking, that string is still there. How even when she goes to school during the day and I can't see her, I tug on my string, she tugs on hers, and we feel each other. And how even when someone leaves us in this body and in this spirit, we still feel that love. Because people and animals and plants die. But love doesn't die. That love your neighbor as yourself, to me, is God. Knowing that you're God, you're God, you're God, you're God, I'm God. And we are all this vibration at the same point that never truly leaves us. And it's so hard to have that love and that faith in moments of grief and trauma and suffering, when it feels like it's just too much. But in that darkness, there is an opportunity for us to shine brighter. In all that destruction that I saw and experienced and felt on Maui, the nightmares, the stories I heard, the people whose energy I felt, there was love as the thread of it all. People just wanted a hug. People just wanted to be seen and know they weren't alone, and that they're still loved, and that they're still here. And the guilt of still being here for a lot of them, I have to tell you, is almost worse than if they'd passed. And I watched and experienced, more so, the best and worst of humanity all within a week with my own eyes. I saw firsthand the extreme mental health issues that social media and the internet is causing us as a collective society, from people who wanted to get on Instagram and Facebook to tell their family members they were still alive, but were instantly bombarded with images of the destruction that they had just lived through. You think they want to see it anymore? They saw that it happened. Blows my mind the way that media continuously showed all these drones and flyovers and everything of Front Street. I don't want to be dark, I want to be real. You're looking at a mass grave. Those are people's bodies. Those are their belongings. How sacred are our bones and our body in Hawaiian culture and Jewish culture and all cultures? And here we all just Google at it and watch it and then trauma bond over it. Everybody wants to focus on how it happened and who let us down, rather than just loving on the people right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm all about leading the revolution. I've told you this before. But now isn't the time to fight the system. Now's the time to love the people who need it. This is only the beginning. And I just got a text message a few days ago that they need a spiritual care supervisor deployed urgently again. I don't know how I can do that with her and everything and how I would accommodate that yet again. But it comes back to the point of what I said when I was here last time. Everybody wants to jump up and help and get on a plane at the beginning. But then that starts to fade. And those people are still left there in need of healing. That love is still there. And I see all of them in ourselves. From the mom at Saphira's school who passed away last week, who has children in Kinderhalle, to the people in the cars that were sitting on Front Street, to the old man I met who was still living in his apartment complex that everything around him had burned and the air quality was not good. And he was still in there. And I went in, and luckily I talked him into leaving. This man had stage 4 cancer. He had just finished his last round of chemotherapy to only have this happen. You know how hard it is to hold space for someone in those moments and not lose that love that you're holding for them in that container? We're all people just doing the best we can on this human experience. And I feel like it's getting harder and harder to human these days. There's more and more chaos, there's more and more destruction, because we are being called to step up more. And I know that's scary, and I don't know how. I know for me, it's taking massive risks and leaps of faith and loving out loud harder than I have before. Because to me, when you love out loud, when you do anything out loud, it's because you don't have fear. It's because you don't have guilt or shame. These concepts that weigh us down so heavily. I am a Jewish mother. Guilt is in my genes, stronger than this thick brown curly hair, I tell you. You have no idea the guilt I felt for being in Maui, the guilt away from her, the guilt I felt for not being in Maui, away from them, and constantly. And it's so easy to spiral into that should all over yourself. Oy. But when we come back to that place of love and give that love without expecting anything in return, we find the strength in being vulnerable. That's the scariest thing to do. Leading that vigil, crying openly like that, and trying to hold that amount of space, it requires a love that cannot be broken. The love that we have with our Creator is like the love I have for my child. That string never leaves. Those lives that were lost might not be here anymore, but they live on in our spirits, in our hearts, and in our actions and our memories. And that is how we change the world. By loving our neighbor as ourselves and realizing that it's not selfish to love ourselves before we do that. If my cup is not overflowing, how can I fill it for anyone else? And we've been taught for so long that we should feel guilty about that we should sometimes feel shame. But loving ourselves is the only way to love another. And when we proudly reflect the divine, we love out loud because we know that there's no other option. That at this moment, so many beings take their last breath. But we still have this one, which means we can do something with it. Which means we can choose to love. We can choose to be the change. We can choose love over fear. That, to me, is the spiritual battle. In every single moment, us as individuals are being called to choose love or fear. And it's up to us which we choose. Do we want fear inside? Or do we want to love out loud? Can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf, right? It's my go-to when it comes to death and dying and grief and loss and love. That's how it is. It flows. It comes in, it goes out. It comes in and goes out. And we can either be a part of it, or we can sit on the shore and watch. So I got a little something that came through post Maui, right after my cat passed, right after stepping away from this thing that I've worked so hard to build, only to come back. Lots of big change. Can only get better. Loving out loud makes our Creator proud because it means you're willing to stand out from the crowd. Because life gets rough, it's hard, it's tough. There's moments we feel like we've had enough, which is often when Source calls our bluff, then something else happens off the cuff. And it's in those moments we want to bottle that stuff. But we have to let it out. Without a doubt, it's okay to let others see us cry and pout. It's okay to be angry, yell, and shout. Being authentic is what life's about, and we're all on the same journey, just different routes. It would be so easy to choose to hide, to bottle it up and swallow my pride, throw up my arms, be like, at least I tried, choose to hide my face in the moments I've cried, deny to see to where myself I have lied, but from discomfort we cannot hide, because by God's law we all abide. I've seen humanity, the best and the worst, those who choose to be last, those who race to be first. Hearts wide open, into tears I burst, feeling like sometimes we all have been cursed. Like, how can this happen to people so pure? Innocent children, too many for sure. For this pain I have no cure, into the depths grief does lure. I wish I could say I had the answer to why some people burn and some get cancer, to why one person can walk and one is a dancer, why these things happen to all people, all places, why the divine touches us all genders and races, why we see us in them, their lives and their faces, the presence of life and the aspects it graces, how evil enters, lurks in all spaces, why we must be present yet cover our bases. No one gets out alive, there's no special cases. We're all just moving at different paces. The divine gets ready, tying their laces, restoring our planet to homeostasis. We must love out loud while we have the choice, stand up for what is and share our voice. And in this moment, we can choose to rejoice. It's hard to be happy in times like these, when there is so much to process, so much to grieve. Feel like I'm constantly crying, dropping to my knees, praying to my Creator to just let us be. But there is so much more that we can't see, why we chose to be here to say Hineni. Here I am, sovereign and free, always exactly where I'm meant to be. You know it's true because it's where you are. And one day soon, you will again be a star. Time is irrelevant, space is near and far. We're all doing our best, just not quite up to par. Generations before, they set the bar, and sometimes I feel like I'm breaking cycles in tar. For my Creator, I know I speak, and I wish I didn't feel like things were so bleak. But into the future, I feel we can peek and see what's happening. The truth does leak. We must restore our waters, our ponds, and our creeks. We must give voice to the voiceless, those who inherit are meek. What's seeking you is what you do seek, and don't ever believe that you are too weak. We all gotta be real, that's how we heal, and see the truths that do conceal. Generations before on the karmic wheel, generations after, they will have to deal. We can choose to be better, this I feel, help those who are hurting in need of a meal. Connect with Source, be humble and kneel. Choose to surrender, let God take the wheel. Loving out loud, this is our home. Through this journey together, we wander and roam. All of us spirit and bodies on loan. Our collective vibration has a different tone. Connected through breath, not through our phones. This technology stuff makes us truly alone. When you love out loud, you enter the zone, because love never dies. Shaloha. Shalom. Thank you, everyone.